Hello, Blanca Palukevicius here, Bravery Architect, and I'm so excited to be here. This is the beginning of our Align module where we dive into everything that is about knowing ourselves better, knowing what our values are, which are usually what drives the way that we live and the way that we work, knowing what our interests are, knowing what our body rhythms are, and our life goals, our strengths, everything that has to do with our capabilities and our beliefs, right? Our values and beliefs, in order for us to understand ourselves better, to position ourselves better in a career or in a business where we thrive, right? When we know where we are best suited to serve or to work, we can put ourselves in a position of success. And talking about success is very important that we define what success means to us, not what we've been fed by media, by the influence of our people in authority in our lives, our parents, our relatives, our friends, not their success, not what their version of success is, but what truly matters to us, what truly is what inspires us, what makes us happy, what makes us feel fulfilled, what makes us feel that we are having an impact and have meaning in everything that we do. So that's why it's so important in this Align module to really get connected with yourself and feel what it is that matters to you. Sometimes we go through life and we don't even question why we make certain decisions, why we choose certain jobs based just on our degree or our education, but perhaps that isn't the best path for us because we haven't perhaps taken the time to realize what is truly important for us, what truly is our authentic being, and where we can thrive the most. So in this session, we are going to talk about the vital signs, right? The vitals stand for your values. One second, let me find the right slide here. So we stand by the values. So the values are the ones that guide our decision making and our goals, right? So we have different values depending on what's important to us. We may have the values of connection or achievement, creativity or compassion, loyalty, boundaries, self-control, bravery, learning, adventure. These are like some of my values that I'm sharing with you. Fairness, ethics, determination, faith, financial security. These are things that we know and we feel deep inside that are very important for us and that we know are key for us to live with. And those are indicators also that we are living a happy life, a life that is meaningful to us, and we're not living like in the comparison mode or living by someone else's values or someone else's version of success. So when you determine your priorities and deep down, these measures tell you what's important to you and what you want, how you want to live your life. These are usually driven by your values. When things are not so aligned, or you feel that something is off, or something feels wrong with you, with the way you're living your life, or you're feeling unhappy, perhaps it's a misalignment with your values. So it's important that we take time to identify and define them. So when you define your values, the first step is to identify, for example, when you were the happiest in your life, right? Just try to recall a time where you were the happiest and what you were doing, at that time? What people did you hang out with? Identifying times that you were the most proud, what were some of the accomplishments that you had, and what those meant to you and why, right? So asking all these questions to yourself. So this is a big journaling exercise, okay? You're going to take this spreadsheet, the document, the worksheet, to work through some of these questions and take reflective time with yourself. Go in nature, in by yourself, and just take a journal and start asking all these questions and thinking about times where you felt meaningful fulfillment about something that you accomplished, those times where you were the happiest in what you were doing, and why was this important to you. When you were the most proud, like, did other people share your pride? Who shared your pride? What other factors contributed to your feeling of pride? So think about and record all of these things in your journaling process. And when you define your personal values, you discover what truly is important to you. And a good way to start doing this is looking back on your life, identifying when you felt really good and really confident about the good choices that you were making. In my case, for instance, I'm making a big shift in my life, something that I had always dreamed about. And for some people, it could be a fantasy. For me, it's something my whole being craves, right? And it's a sense of adventure, and it's a sense of freedom. I realized that I value a simple life, with nature around me, with time to enjoy my family, with family connection, for example. All of those things I didn't have very much in my former life, in my former job. I was busy working a lot, 10, 12-hour days. I was making really good money, but I was living for the weekends. I was burning out, or burned out actually. And I just was unhappy. I knew there was more to life than that. I could travel anywhere I wanted, but I had very little time to do that because of my demanding job. So things started to feel really off, really something was out of whack, and I couldn't put my finger on what was wrong. I knew I had to perhaps shift my career, even though my finance career had been very good to me in terms of providing amazing resources to live, alive and travel the world. But something was feeling off, and so I had to start doing a lot of healing work. First of all, because I was physically and emotionally ill at that time. And then I realized that patterns and conditioning from childhood had affected my self-worth. Therefore, I was keeping myself in a situation that was toxic for me, that didn't align with my values, that I wanted a freedom that I couldn't have, that I wanted more time with my family now that I had a new child, a baby at the time. I could not live okay with not seeing her and having her spend most of her time in daycare. So at that time, I had a big shift, right? I made a decision to shift my career into coaching so that I could have more time to be with her, take her to school, be with her, teach her, etc., have more time to spend with my family. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because it is an example of how when you find that something is off in your life and you realize what your values are, then you can make shifts to make your life happier. So at that time, I made those decisions and I shifted to being at home and working from home, creating a business that allows me the freedom to be with my daughter anytime I want to, take a time off with her and go travel and do things with her. And now that she's in school, I mean, there are certain rules we have to follow, but I have more freedom with her. I have hours that we can do things together, etc. So I realized that was a very important value for me. I made a huge adjustment in my income uh, in order for me to shift. But that's going to be temporary. You know, it's not going to be like that forever. So I adjusted my lifestyle to be able to be more with my family, right? And that came about because I realized some things were not aligned with my values. So I just wanted to drive that home and tell you how important it is for your well-being, for your happiness, that you are in touch with that what's important to you, and you create your life around these things. So take the time to dig into these values and your, you know, what's important to you, right? And then another thing that is huge right now is like right now I'm making a decision to move to Spain. So I always dreamed about living in Spain and having this, you know, free or very close to free or very close in proximity access to other European countries, and have a slower pace of life, have more work life balance. And so I decided to move my family to Spain. Actually, I'll be leaving probably in a couple of months or less than 2 months. So and why did I realize this? I realized that to me it's more important to have a sense of adventure ongoingly in my life. Traveling to new cultures is my thing, is what I love the most. Learning about different cultures, having financial security, living in another country where the cost of living is significantly less than here in the US, especially in Los Angeles, allows for me to have an easier time financing my cost of living, and therefore having a better sense of financial security. For example, I would probably bring my family over and therefore be able to afford that and have their support and fulfill their need of family connection is tightly aligned with my values. So as you can see, you can make significant decisions in your life to increase your well-being, your level of happiness based on your values. Once you discover your values, you can make important decisions that align with it. It does take bravery, of course, to leave your zone of comfort. But that's where, you know, that's a trade-off, right? You have to have courage to make big decisions like starting a business or moving abroad. But, you know, if you don't ever take a risk, then you will be with regret. You know, you probably live with regret because then the opportunities pass you by and you don't pursue them. And then you just feel all the time sad because you didn't take an opportunity when you had a chance. So that's why it's so important to be in tune, right? The other thing, so checking your vital signs. So Meg Selig, she's a therapist, and she talks about being in touch with your vital signs. So vitals stand for values, interest, temperament, all around the clock, life mission and goals, and your strength. Your interests are like your passions, your hobbies, whatever draws your attention for a sustained time. In my case, I love travel, culture, philanthropy, art, self-mastery, empowerment. So I put together all of these things in my business model so I can do the things that I love with different cultures all around the world, and how these vital signs inform my decisions and then shape my life, right? So that's why you want to check your vitals, quote unquote, sign throughout your life, in different stages of your life, and make sure you're in alignment with these things. Your temperament, your inborn traits are very important to take into account so that you don't drain yourself from the energy that you have to pursue your life goals. For example, if you're an extrovert or if you're an introvert, you know, you have to keep in mind these things to plan your life in a way that aligns with that, right? If you're a planner, or if you go with a flow type of person, if are you a starter, or are you a visionary? Are you detail oriented, or do you go by feelings, or are you more driven by thoughts and facts? Are you practical? Are you impatient? Are you determined? Are you malleable? So all of these temperaments that are part of your personality and your temperament are very important. When you note these things, you have the self-awareness to know, you know what, I would do well in a business or in a job where I can, for example, come in at 10 a.m. because I'm not an early riser. I my 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 temp, my that's oh, I'm sorry, that's the biorhythms. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for example, in a job where I'm an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert, I do need time to regain my energy. And I do that. Now I know that. I always thought I was an introvert, but now I know I'm actually an extrovert introvert. And so now that I have a daughter who's very active and excited and has ton of energy, I realize, you know what, I'm also an introvert. I do need alone time in the quiet so I can recharge. And also, I realized that part of me sometimes don't want to interact with other people. Um, and so, but it's a smaller part of me. So I'm mostly an extrovert because I like to socialize and connect. I thrive in connection. So when you keep this in mind, you can shape your career, your business, knowing this and knowing where you'll excel, right? So knowing ourselves is really important because of all these things. All around the clock stands for the A in vitals, and this is about your biorhythms, like when your body functions best. Are you a morning person? Do you hate brunch? Some people hate brunch. They like to have 3 square meals, like early morning, at lunchtime, and then at nighttime. Um, for instance, I realize I love brunch. Like I do like to have something in the morning, but I like to, get up and have a little something, or have a good breakfast and then lunch. But some days I just love brunch. I'm not necessarily like 3 square meals type of person, or in a given time. I like to have that flexibility. And so if you're not an early riser, for example, but you get a job that you have to be there at 7 a.m., you will struggle. You will have to really force yourself to be there so early. And for the most part, your jobs have to begin a certain time, but then you can keep this in the back of your mind and then know, okay, maybe I can negotiate a different time schedule, or try to find a job that can start later, so that you're more like in the flow, more in alignment with yourself. Or simply realize that you might need to switch off earlier than usually, so that you can then be up earlier. That never really worked for me because I was always up late and still had a lot of energy at night. So you have to really assess that. But knowing that is a big step ahead, knowing that, right? So that you can shift things and find it that aligns it more with you. Life missions and goals. So what have been the most meaningful events in your life? There might be clues to your hidden identity, career, and life satisfaction. So in my case, as I dealt with the past trauma, and as I dealt with the limiting beliefs, I realized I had a big calling to empower women who had gone through abuse, who had gone through domestic violence. And my need to help these women came from realizing that I had suffered some of that stuff in the past. And I realized how impactful that was for me to be able to console and comfort and help other people who have gone through the same experience. So going through the deep diving process of your healing is actually very good, because it might be the cue to your life's purpose and your life's goals. So all of what we're doing in this program is helping you get there, right? Identify what truly matters to you, why things are important, your why, okay? Knowing your why will drive most of your decisions in alignment. Um, and your strengths. That's the last one for the vital signs. Your strengths are your abilities, your skills, your talents, your character strengths, your loyalty. You might be having love for learning, emotional intelligence, fairness, integrity. So these character strengths and your actual abilities, skills, and talents are so important to really pin down. This is going to be the key for you to understand what's your sweet spot. Okay, what is the area where you thrive the most? Okay, so if you're a people's person, if you are good with analytics, or if you are good with creative stuff, if you have a mix of all these things that which we all do in certain ways, it's harder sometimes to pin it down. Like for me, I have a hard time sometimes pinning down, okay, so I have this strength, I have that strength. And sometimes to put it all together in one might be harder because some people are called what they're called scanners, which are they're good at different things. But when and that's okay, you know, it's totally fine. That's fantastic. But if you're someone who is good at a particular thing and that's your thing, it's even easier to identify and really craft your life around this thing. You have a greater impact, you have a niche down focus for what you do. So it's really great. When you're a scanner like me and you have a lot of interest and variety of skills and talents, you can pull them together. You can oversee projects or businesses because you have different talents. And abilities and experiences. So it's, you know, it's all about what you are and who you are and what's your forte that will help you identify and be honest with yourself to find where you fit the best and where you can serve people the best and where you can market yourself the best. So those are some of the things to consider in this module. Take some time to journal, and I'm going to post the workbook for you, and keep this in mind all the time throughout your life, and this is going to help you stay aligned. All right, I hope this served you, and we'll talk soon.